Hey, so it's a beautiful morning. So let's talk a little bit about past lives and connection with the ancestors and what all that means, especially when it comes to becoming one, right? So this is a very crude drawing here, okay? But let's say this is the net, all right? Now, each one of us individually is one of these little triangles here. Let's say I'm this triangle right here. All right. Now, when I have a memory of a past life, okay, that past life might be coming from something over here. But this is a whole repeating pattern, right? And this pattern determines the cycle as to how I got made into this triangle right here. Now, time is not how we perceive it. Within this triangle, there's a whole bunch of other little triangles and patterns and all that kind of shit that make up our individuality, right? Or our attachments. So as long as we're looking at ourselves as this little triangle and not seeing this whole thing, all we're doing is we're going to be seeing time as being very much stuck in this little cycle here, where it's like 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, 5 year. Each year has 365 days, right? But time actually is not any of that. It doesn't go from 5 years ago or 6 years ahead. None of that exists outside of this triangle. Time is cyclical. Time is how we measure the patterns that create the replication within this net. So let's say I have a vision of myself back in, I don't know, ancient Kemet, right? Wham, over here. And I'm like, whoa, that was so long ago. It wasn't actually that long ago. It's still existing as its own entity, right? But it's just over here. Maybe what I'm doing is connecting to another part of this net. Oh, look, it made it to my triangle. Right? Maybe this is a karmic pattern, an impulse that I am still expressing that's coming from all the way up here on one of these other triangles. They're still their own entities. That part of me that's in Kemet might still be existing as its own entity. So the goal, right, of us connecting to our past lives and to our ancestors is because what we're trying to do is expand our knowledge beyond this simple triangle and instead starting to see the whole. Now, some of us will remember certain past lives, and we can also figure out, oh, look, here's a whole shape right here. And that whole shape right here, we perceive it as a God form. We're like, whoa, that's a God form. Because we see how all of these patterns are affecting our own. And we feel like that's outside of us. It's actually still connected, right? So we're like, shit, man, this is fucking God. This is it. This is it. Nope. Because then look. Whoa, here's another shape that's being created in this huge fucking net. Our goal is to go beyond all of the patterns. This is Maya. Our goal is to go beyond not just this little triangle, not this little shape that's being made, but to recognize the whole net and to then disconnect from all this. And recognize that we are not just the net, right? We are not just this. We then, our next stage, become the paper that this was drawn on, the plane of which the expression, the experience is expressed, is shown. We become the medium, the platform. After that, after disconnecting from that, we become the holder of the pen. And after that, we become the observer. So this is the process of understanding your relationship to your ancestors and to your past lives and to everything else. Time is not how you perceive it. We are simply looking from ourselves from this little triangle here. And our goal is to see that every time we have a flashback, or we see a God form, or we see an ancestor, we have to remember that all we're doing is connecting to another part of the net that's already existing. And that does create an entity, but that entity also is a part of another thing, and another thing, and another thing. Keep in mind that this is where people lose their minds. Keep in mind, this is where people lose their minds. So you can lose your shit because you will constantly start seeing patterns, right? Within this net that we're all a part of. You'll be like, oh, and then this connects to here, and then this connects to here, and then this connects to here. But you never actually disconnect from the net itself. You never actually realize that you were much more than this. So people will just stay cycling in and out of all these different patterns and all these different connections that they're seeing in the net, but they never leave the fucking net. They never become the paper. They never become the pen holder. They never become the thought that picked up the pen that started making the mark. So this was a very crude explanation of how this shit works and what our end goal is. Are you seeing it from the triangle? Do you think that this is it? Are you seeing it from your past lives, from your God form? Or are you starting to expand and expand and expand and expand and then detach? Become the paper. That's the next step. I hope this helped. Many blessings.